Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to Rogan and Runescape. This is a Rogan review of episode 1430 with Raghunath Cappo, who I refer to as Rag. This episode really focuses on karma and, or at least that's what Rag talks about, and that's what I kind of go into detail about and try to make sense about. And really just your everyday decisions in life and how it affects your game. Raghunath Cappo. Raghunath Cappo. Interesting name. So this dude kind of starts out by kind of giving praises to Rogan, and sort of he kind of gives him a little backsided compliment, kind of negs him by saying that I've never listened to your show before up until recently, but thank you for giving me a shout out. Which, I mean, it's whatever. Like, he could have not included that he's never listened to the show. Like, it's just kind of I don't know, it just kind of feels like a dicky thing to say. It's like, yeah, I've never listened to your show, but I'm on here right now. It's like, whatever. But so it's kind of how it starts out. Then he kind of just goes in this long ass like story or talk about him going to India, and really I kind of started finding it interesting around an hour and a half into the show, believe it or not. That's when he starts to talk a little bit more about spiritual things rather than his personal life, which is what's interesting in this episode, is more of the metaphysical, spiritual ideas that he has to talk about. So one thing that they were saying is they were talking about this like Ganesha, like this elephant-headed being or something like that, and Joe is basically like asking, like, so in these texts, like in these holy texts, are these things real? Are these like animal-human hybrids? Are they something that's actually real, or what is going on there? And Raghunath, I don't even know how to pronounce this, but let's call him Rag. Rag, he says that it's kind of like a perspective thing. So if you were to only live in one area where there was only like ponies, and your whole life all you saw was ponies, and then you were to travel to Africa and no one else has been there, and then you see a zebra and you try to explain it to someone like there was like a black and white like horse thing there, and he's like, yeah, I've seen a horse before. Like, no, but it has black and white stripes throughout its whole body. And the dude's like, yeah, right, you're bullshitting. So he uses that analogy basically for these mythical beings in religious scripts. I guess one, I wouldn't really call it an equivalent because it's not necessarily an animal, but one somewhat equal thing you could compare it to would be the Nephilim of the Bible, I guess. The giants that were supposedly angels that mated with human women, and made these Nephilim. So it's like, you can kind of ask the same thing. It's like, well, were these giants like real? Or it's like, oh, these giants weren't real, but it's like, it's hard to imagine unless you've seen it. What do I believe? I don't know. I mean, I'm open to just about anything, but I also will take anything with a grain of salt. So Rag starts talking about like the ant analogy, how he says, like, if you have an ant on a table and you blow on it, the ant's gonna think it's like the god of wind, because he's not gonna know what the fuck is going on. It's all about the perspective. And the reason I bring this up is because, I mean, a lot of what he talks about in this episode, with the whole metaphysical and spiritual stuff, really kind of fundamentally boils down to an understanding that there are forces that we cannot see. And to the skeptic, I would simplify it by saying magnetism, which I can't remember if he gets into in this episode, but magnetism, for example, it's an invisible force that exists. Not to mention our Earth itself is a magnet. You have the North Pole and the South Pole. You know what I'm saying? And there's a whole bunch more to it that I don't understand. It's above my pay grade. But that's just a very simple example of forces at work that we can't see that exist. So take that, like I said, with an open mind and a grain of salt as we move on into this episode. A good example that you could think about as an analogy would be the moon. And think about how the moon affects the waves. Fuck yeah. Think about how the moon affects the waves. It has a gravitational pull. Once again, more than I understand, above my pay grade. But that, as well as the magnetism, are two examples of forces that exist that you cannot really see. Another one, just for fun, would be the color spectrum. We only see 7 colors, and then the variables, the combinations. So Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet, and then all the mixtures in between. And of course, white is the absence of any color, and then black is all the colors together. So what I'm getting at, though, is that that's just what we can see on our visible light spectrum. Obviously, there's more because animals can see differently, and at night and stuff like that, I would imagine that they can see in different colors as well. Things that we couldn't even imagine. How would you even describe another color, for example? You know? So it's kind of interesting, kind of sets a little foundation, not a founder, sets a foundation for what Rag is about to start talking about, because he starts getting into about how like the Earth is a being, and how there are, or in his belief, there are beings outside of this Earth, and the stars are beings. He was saying that I think he was saying there's a mantra for each constellation or something like that, because the constellations have an effect on our karma. And so I kind of laid the foundation about forces at work that you can't see, but that are there for kind of this main premise right here of karma, because this is an underlying reoccurring theme that that Rag keeps going back to, and that Rogan keeps going back to throughout this whole episode, is karma. I personally believe in karma. I personally think that you can see it, especially if you believe in it. You know what I'm saying? If you believe that you do good, and good things will come to you, but you got to be patient. You know what I'm saying? It's not all at once, because think about all the karma that you've accumulated in the past before you were conscious and woke, for lack of better words. You accumulated bad karma by doing the decisions in your life that wouldn't affect you in a positive way of bringing you up necessarily. Like, so say if you're in like 6th, 7th grade, and you really should have been studying more so that you could have gotten, taken IT more seriously, and then that would have laid the foundation for, that studying, that good karma, that energy, everything being energy, would allow you to, when you're older in high school and then college, you would have that work, that good karma that you've already done to propel you into a direction of moving your life upwards in a more likely successful direction than the opposite, which is kind of we can use hell as a kind of like an analogy. I'm sorry, I'm struggling for words here, but you can use hell as an analogy, because so what hell would be is you either reincarnating back into, and this is something that they get into in this podcast. So hell would be like reincarnating either into the same life until you get it right every single decision. That's one branch of thought. The other branch of thought is it's not the exact same life. You reincarnate into a life that is similar based off of your desires and energy and stuff like that. And so it's not like you reincarnate right back into what, who you were in this life and then relive everything. It would be like slightly different, but you need to still learn the same lessons. A lot of times people might wonder, why do bad things happen to good people? And I don't personally have the answer, but I've tried to think about why. I've thought about this since maybe 5th grade, when I transitioned essentially from a child brought up in a religious environment into, like I said, 2005, about fifth grade, into like really questioning things like, what's going on here? I actually even remember this website back from like 2005 or 2006 when I was like a little rebellious 12-year old, 11 to 13-year-old, and I'm just like questioning, wait a second, like if there is a supreme all-knowing being, why would bad things happen to innocent people, like people in Ethiopia being born without food, or being born in a war-torn environment, or born into sex slavery or something like that. And there was a website called God, what was it called? It was like something about amputee. Why would, if something about like, if God was real, why would amputees not be able to pray for a leg to heal, like for their leg to heal or to come back, and it would happen? It was something like that. It was some, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the website, but it was something on those lines. And I'm like, yeah, man, why would bad things happen to good people if there was like this really good dude in the sky and shit like that? But I don't really think it's like a dude. I don't think it's like a dude in the sky. If anything, it's more of a program, which I can't even get into right now, the whole AI thing, or AI simulation combination in this episode. But is it like, it's not like a dude in the sky? Is it like, are we in a simulation essentially, to where like we're not progressing to the point in technology where we can create a simulation? It's that we've already gotten to that point, perhaps in the past, the history that's been covered up through the various burnings of libraries, or the destruction of cultural sites that have tablets talking about Anunnaki and where we came from, or just like the whole misunderstanding and miscommunication about where the pyramids in Egypt or Chichen Itza, or all came from, and the Great Sphinx having water erosion on it, when water wouldn't have been in that area of Egypt for thousands of years before the time we were told that the pyramids were created. So what I'm getting at is that, rather than us being hunter-gatherers when we were told, is this more like a cycle? Is this Earth kind of like a cycle? Whether it be through natural destruction or whether it be through self-destruction through man, is this kind of like a cycle where souls kind of go to learn lessons and stuff like that? Because what if, like, I mean, we already know that the past has been covered up. Like, there's something that we don't know about what's been going on. We've been lied to. So what I'm getting at is theorizing, hypothetically, have humans already gotten to the point in technology, to, like I said previously, where we're not working up towards building a simulation of life? It's already happened, and that's what this life essentially is, like a real life Sims. And the souls are here essentially to gain karma, to move in either an up direction or a down direction, which could be represented by dimensions. You could think of it as a higher dimension or a lower dimension. So if I was in a 3D world and I was to go lower myself to the next dimension, it would be a 2D world. That seems a lot simpler and not as fun, right? Like, everyone remembers Game Boy graphics, GTA for Game Boy, and then GTA 3 came out, PC, way different, right? So you wouldn't want to gain energy to lower yourself to a lower dimension. Once again, thoughts being energy. You've got your higher frequency thoughts and your lower frequency thoughts. So your higher frequency thoughts would be like love, compassion, understanding, and lower frequency thoughts would be like greed, anger, lust, materialism, which is what is basically force fed to us through the media, through TV shows and through culture every day, is the lower frequency thoughts. Some people theorize, I think the Matrix might have been dancing along the lines of, it's the machine, the program that keeps us at the frequency or tries to lower our frequency there is there because it feeds on us or our energy as the